So I am thrilled to be here with you today and with MJ Callaway. This is the Work from Home Better interview series, and I'm inviting speakers and expert friends of mine to share their wisdom with you so that you can have a better work from home experience. So MJ Callaway is a speaker and sales trainer with fantastic knowledge there. But why she's here today is she's got strategies to help us stay more positive. And in these really, really stressful times, I thought we could all use some of that. So I was really excited to bring MJ here for that. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. She's an award-winning author, resilient speaker and sales trainer. And she's found that the best way to work is to have a strategic plan. So I want to hear definitely more about that. And for MJ, this is really crucial in difficult times. And she knows because MJ has been diagnosed with cancer twice in the past 3 years. So that's big deal stuff. So during this time, in this 3-year period, MJ has rebranded her speaking and training business. She's written her 8th book titled Bounce Up. I have a question about that too. Outpower adversity, boost resilience, and rebound higher. Developed an online program called Bounce Up from Stuck to Success, and signed an international training contract. So going through all of this, she's still been able to accomplish a lot of things. So I want to get at what that looks like. Before MJ started her company, she was the only female sales executive to hit #1 for a national company in the building industry. She sold 3 times her quota. So that's impressive right there. She's won 4 gold awards from the Parenting Media Association, and you sold a game to Disney. So clearly a diverse set of talents. What I love is you love adventure. And I'm curious I want to know later on if this ties to any of your strategies. Zip lining over gators in Alabama, playing tug of war with a baby black bear in Michigan, and biking down a volcano for kicks in Maui. So welcome, MJ. I'm thrilled to have you here today and to get to really dive into this topic of coming up with strategies to stay positive. I wonder if I could start with a question. Why does it matter to stay positive?
Oh, first, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it. Staying positive can help us, as you're a productivity expert, staying positive can help us be more productive. It can also help us be more proactive, and staying positive, then that creates our mindset to look for solutions rather than being reactive and focusing on the issue at hand. So it's huge to stay positive. You have a choice, so you can choose to be reactive and stay stuck, or you can be proactive and always moving towards finding a solution.
Sometimes it's hard to find that place. So that's what I'm really curious is how we get that. Before we get to some of those strategies, can you share a little bit just about your story and what you've been through that in terms of crises and how that connects to how you face what we're going through right now?
Absolutely, I would love to. About 3.5 years ago, I was diagnosed for the first time with cancer, and the prognosis was pretty dire. I had a 20% chance of surviving if chemo hadn't worked, and chemo had a 50% chance of working. So the odds were not, definitely, were not in my favor. So that was the first time. And, fortunately, with a lot of great people on my medical team, which I call my power team, through a prayer group, through being positive and looking at it differently than what I think maybe some people might have. So if I could share a little bit of that with you, So my first thing what I did was I did flip it. That's one of my strategies. So when you have something negative in your head, the first thing that I do, and think about this, the word chemo, radiation, cancer, they're all negative words. So I sat down and I wrote on the left side, and I just put negative, and then on the right side, so 2 columns, and then I put over on the right side, flip it. I wanted to flip those negative words. Okay. So chemo then became magic wand, and radiation became buzz because I thought of Buzz Lightyear. So the machine was huge and there was a lot of clicking. So when I thought of the machine and the sounds it made, I thought about Buzz Lightyear. And I thought, how much fun is, when you think, see, you're smiling, Claire, when I just mentioned buzz. So I took every negative word, anything that had a negative connotation to it, and I flipped it to a positive word. So
powerful.
It made a big difference. And also I did that when I talked to my medical team, I use those same words.
I connect it to what's happened now because we've slightly shifted social distancing to physical distancing because we realize we don't want to diminish any sense of social connectedness. And we've talked about, instead of being locked up, to be sheltering in place. So there has been a shift in media, which I've been appreciative of, because every word sends signals to our body and to our nervous system to react a certain way. So yeah, super powerful. So flip it. That's a core strategy. Keep going. This is fantastic.
Thank you. So yes, definitely flip it. And I used, whenever they were first starting talking about mandates, the order to stay at home, I called it stay safe at home. Mm-hmm. Again, pulling in that positive, because staying home would keep me safe and to keep everyone else safe too. So that was one of the first, that flip it was one of the first principles or fundamentals that I had incorporated. The second one was I went to every single treatment, and I will tell you, there was a lot. So over the course of those 3.5 years, I went through 6 different major surgeries with a lot of time staying at home for recovery. So I went to every single appointment dressed. And the reason I did that was because it was a date with my future self. I went in, when I say dress, I would go, of course I needed the button down shirt for the port entrance. So I had that, a cardigan, I had my jewelry on, I had on a skirt and heels. So every single time, because it was my date with my future self. And then the third fundamental that I had incorporated was I considered the medical team part of my power team. So when they were part of my power team, it wasn't that they had more. Sometimes whenever we go to a doctor, we hold them on a higher level than what we do ourselves. By including them as part of my power team, we became equals because I was as much responsible as they were.
So I just want to pause there because, well, there's a bunch of things in what you said in point 2 and 3, but it made me think of Andrew Cuomo yesterday, who had a COVID test to show it. And before he had the test, the doctor who was giving him the test told him to close his eyes. And he said, "Why am I closing my eyes?" And then he turned to the cameras and said, "You can ask your doctor questions." And so I think your point of not putting almost anybody, quite frankly, up on a pedestal. Yes, we need to respect each other, but to put people up on a pedestal creates a bit of a barrier. And you definitely want your medical team to be, number one, aligned with you. Yes. And I've had some struggles in this department. I had to fight for alignment. And there's, I think, is it Lisa Rankin, who's written LISSA, I think. She's written a fabulous book around getting your medical team to be part of, like, to be aligned with who you are and really speaking up for that. So yeah, I love that. And it also harkens to this fact, you are not tackling this alone. You do have a team, and then therefore you feel a little empowered by that, right? You call it your power team.
Definitely. You are definitely empowered by it. The other thing that happened whenever I include them in my power team was I went in every single time with a notebook, and they knew that. The first time
I think it scares some people.
It was so funny. After the first bout of cancer, and I was clear at that time, I walked in, it was just a checkup, an exam, and the doctor said, "MJ, where's your notebook?" They were so accustomed to me having a notebook, and they're like, "MJ, where are your questions?" And at that point, my questions were answered. So for them, it showed them that I was my own boss of myself. So, and I didn't expect them or give them the mission to make me better. I was a true partner in that relationship.
I love that. You remind me of a friend of mine, Camille, who I hope is going to be on the show later. And she's a nutritionist, sex therapist, and so on. She talks about being your own best health advocate. And yeah, you have to stand in that place. And it's interesting though, because I work as an executive coach a lot of times. And as coaches, we're trained to hold our clients accountable. Many people do not take notes. They think their brains are going to hold everything. And that ain't the case, especially if you're under stress. So, as Daniel Levitin in The Organized Mind talks about, you need to have these supports for yourself. And one of the things, absolutely from a productivity perspective, no matter what's going on in the world, is to use a notebook, to use a device to capture. Now, what I think is interesting now is I've asked doctors before, can I record this? And I have an autoimmune issue, which could over time affect cognitive function. And I think their whole population could be challenged by this. Why should we not be allowed to record? There are big issues around this, and it's doctors being afraid from a liability perspective. I say brave up, serve your clients, and offer them the medium that is going to help them best. So to people listening, if you've got a medical appointment or if you've got a stressful situation, even I find it useful if you're trying to monitor the quality of your presence or, in contentious, difficult situations, having it be recorded so you can reflect back on it. It's such a useful tool. And so many of us are afraid of it. We shouldn't be. So I love that you're bringing up the concept of being your own advocate, being your boss, were your words, and taking some ownership in the process. You have to be an active participant.
Definitely. I love the phrase you use, brave up. Might be a book in that, brave up. I also, keep that in mind. I also loved the idea of recording. I had not thought of that. Especially for anybody who is going through some type of treatment that has chemicals going through your body. There was such a thing as brain fog, that had to do with magic wand. So that recording could have really helped. Yeah. I think I would have used it. I probably would have taken notes too, because I am a write it down, make it happen, having a writing background, but I definitely would have used a recording too. So thank you for that little tip. Good tip for me and good tip for anybody listening.
And use otter.ai, because not only do you have the audio recording, you get yourself a transcript, and then you can maybe print that off and make your notes from there, turn in your action plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned you have a friend who's a nutritionist. That was the other thing that I did. I did make sure that I did see a nutritionist when I was going through to get a better meal plan that would fit for me and what was happening. I also did see an integrative doctor. So I did a number of things. I also did acupuncture. So to move some of that energy there. And I used essential oils on a daily basis. And I knew exactly which ones would help for what. So here's a little tip, and it goes for productivity too. So peppermint oil, if you take and splash some in your hand, rub it together and then breathe it in, it helps with energy. It also helps to alleviate that fatigue that happens.
It's definitely an energizing scent. There's a few. Eucalyptus is another one, I think, right?
Yes. Lemon, orange. There's a few
citrusy ones. Yep.
So yes.
Yeah. Powerful. Okay, keep going. This is
Thank
fantastic.
you. So those were the 3 things that I had implemented. What else I implemented coming from a productivity and a strategic plan was I knew that the first 10 days after I had magic wand that I would be what I call sofa surfing. So it sounds a whole lot better than what it was. So
it does sound, again, you flipped it.
I did.
Yeah, sofa surfing.
I had a contingency planned.
Mm-hmm.
So that contingency plan had what could I do when I was sofa surfing? And I had a list of things I could read. I couldn't read for long periods, but
Yeah.
I could read. I could do
Yeah.
some research. I could do some exercise. So during that time, I pulled in that contingency plan. I could also call people, which really helped me keep that engagement and also to keep on track.
Tell me what you mean then when you say I pulled in my contingency plan. Is this, different activities that you can do which are respecting your capacity at that time, what you're able to do? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. And that contingency plan, everybody can implement that. Looking at what's going on today in our society,
Yeah.
it is so when we have a disruption, when we have any type of adversity or setback, we are not in our normal energy flow and workflow. So have what I call a contingency plan for those days where you can't do what you normally do, and or have it for different parts of the day. We all have some type
Yes.
of ebb and flow with our energy. So have that contingency plan of what you can do when your energy does zap. Put that in place. But I had that contingency plan for every part of that journey. Some things were just minor, but the other contingency, and I'll give you an example. So when I had one of the last surgeries I had in August of 2019, and then another one in December of 2019, actually the day after Christmas for us, and it might be Boxing Day for you.
That's right. Yeah.
So for that August, it would be 8 weeks that I couldn't drive, I couldn't work, I couldn't lift anything more than 5 pounds. So my part of my contingency plan was I had taken a map and I had figured out the 15 states that had the highest cases of breast cancer. And what I did on that map was I went and I highlighted them. And then I also went and figured out the cities that were the largest cities in those states. Because my goal was once the book was released, I was going to do a book tour.
Uh-huh.
So that was part of my contingency plan, taking the time to look at a map and have fun with the map and figure out a travel journey for the book tour. So that was a contingency plan. It's something I wanted to do, but it
Something
did
that was,
take a
yeah,
lot of
something was
energy.
motivating for you that you could look forward to, sort of naturally brought you energy. That's sort of what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it was awesome. Now, of course, that plan is put on hold now with us having our stay safe at home.
Mhm.
However, I still have it and I will implement it when the time is right. But
Mhm.
that's what I mean about contingency plan. Have some task or some projects that you can do for those days when you're not full of energy.
Yeah, because is that so at the end of that day, you can still feel like I moved a little bit forward. I moved a little bit closer towards my goals, even it was, I'd like to do 10,000 steps today, but today 100 was actually winning. So I'm happy with my 100, to make a comparison.
That's a great analogy. And absolutely. It also, when we get busy, we get better. So, what happens is we take the focus off of what is happening within our body or what is happening, that the problem. Instead, we're
Mhm.
now going back to solution. So, one of my key, I call them momentum questions. And that
Mm.
is, what can I do right now with what I have?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it on my website. I have a download of free strategies for what you can do right now. And on the first page, I'm talking about taking care of the home team. And in that is respecting capacity. We have to know what our capabilities are, and then we have to respect the capacity we have, which is gated by energy and emotional state. And so this is exactly what you're recognizing here, is to pay attention to that. Because if we don't, number one, I think we can push ourselves too far. And number two, we live in this place of guilt and I should be doing more and expectations that aren't real. So meeting yourself where you are every day and pulling from your contingency plan options it gives you the power back to be now in control of making choices and positive choices.
Absolutely. And I call those steps moving forward game changers, because it does change. First, it changes our mindset, and it also changes our productivity and also our end goal, whatever that destination is. And then we're able to improvise.
Tell me, because I'm curious, because I'm someone who's danced with planning for a long time. And right now, whatever we might have had planned could be pretty much out the window. I'm looking at our major airline here has just laid off 20,000 employees, is looking at, they're losing $22 million a day. I think it's incredible. And so their 2020 plan is out the window. And so well, how do you look at the value of what is a strategic plan and how you carry that forward in a time where that plan doesn't fit in the context we are right now? So can you address that at all?
Sure. And I can do it from both. Whenever I was diagnosed, when I was diagnosed in October of 2016, it was actually at the height of my training career. I was booked. I had clients. I mean, it was such a great time for me career-wise. And then I, hit this major roadblock.
Yeah.
So what I had to do, I had mentioned that I knew I was down for those 10 days. Yeah. So for the 10 days that were good 10 days for me is when I scheduled my clients. And the first week, I only did half days, because I knew that was what my energy could handle. And then in the following week, which was because my treatments were always on Thursdays. So I could then, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I could do a full day. So I scheduled according to that. I also moved whatever I could to virtual meetings, so I didn't have to leave the house.
Great practice for now, right?
Absolutely. And everything that I implemented then came back, it was like, oh my goodness, I've already had this practice run.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had some certainty in your schedule. When you don't have certainty and you don't know when something, say it was like, they're going to just call you and go, guess what? Treatment's today. Or, you know what I mean? There's a, how do you deal with complete uncertainty?
And I go back to that question, what can I do right now with what I have? Because it definitely, even though the days of treatment, they were scheduled, how my body responded was uncertainty. So, and I didn't know what it would do each time. So that's the downside of having any type of a treatment such as that, or any type of disease. It doesn't matter what the disease is, that brings uncertainty. Somebody who has asthma, the weather can kick off. And if they're a speaker, imagine trying to speak with, coughing, trying to control that breathing or not being able to breathe. So what is it you can do? So having a backup plan, or my contingency plan has worked really well whenever I have had that uncertainty of not being able to go. In improvising has been key to me. That's one of my fundamentals. One of the things that I was told when I was going through treatment, that get as much exercise as you can so that you can push out all the chemicals through. Well, it was December. It was November and December. It was one of the worst flu seasons. We are now in the worst. And I couldn't go to a gym because my immune system tanked. So, and I couldn't walk outside because it was so cold. I live in Pittsburgh, similar weather. You might get a little bit worse than us, but, not great weather.
We're not that far. You're what, about 5 hours drive from me, I think.
Right. So we have what's called Phipps Conservatory. It's a beautiful indoor conservatory. I joined as a member, which gave me unlimited visits. And I would go there. I would take a notebook with me, or I would take whatever I could paperwork. I would go, I would grab a table, I would put my jacket there and my notebook there. I would walk for 10 or 15 minutes. I'd go back, I'd sit down. Sometimes I had lunch there. I
Mm,
always had some type of herbal tea. So that was a contingency plan when, uncertainty. Definitely couldn't walk outside or anything else, but looking at it as improvise. How
yeah,
can I improvise? What do I
yeah.
have?
Well, and I think the whole world is getting a lesson in that now. And anybody who's faced a challenge and not known what's coming has is probably somewhat prepared for this. If you've learned how to dance in that discomfort and
Yes.
trust that you'll figure out what you need with this attitude that says I'm going to meet myself where I am and figure out what I can bring to this challenge, and also some creative thinking, right, to come up with, well, what will work for me now. I've had to adapt my much loved daily exercise schedule because I would go from here right down to the pool in my building every morning and start my day in the pool. And boy, do I miss it. So I walk almost every day, and I've started adding swimming motions into my walking. So all of the different strokes. And so I know I look a little nutty out there, but it's great because it actually keeps people away. If you're doing a full breaststroke, it's like a really good distance preserver, but it's also bringing the cardio up. So I think that some of these constraints, which we could look at as constraints, become opportunities if we bring that creative improvisational mindset to it, to say, well, okay, what can I do to have the same end goal, which is working all the muscles in my body in a way that I'm comfortable to do so. So yeah.
And you hit the key word there, opportunity. We can look at it as an opportunity or not. So we can look at it as, oh my goodness, let it flatline us. It's a face plant. I can't get up. But if
Yeah.
we look at it as an opportunity, it allows us the opportunity to bounce up.
Okay, so I love that you mentioned that. I'm just glancing over here because I realized I can bring up, I think, the video, and I can see, yeah, I can see. Okay, but wait a minute. I can't have it playing. Hang on. Oops. Because what happens is, I don't know if you could hear that. That was us playing back a few minutes before, but I can see on Facebook there are a few people joining us right now. And Caroline says hi from Montreal. So we've got a good friend, really super creative, talking about creativity person. So I may be able to see questions on Facebook now that I've got that hooked up there, but forgive me if I don't answer. So I'll try my best to do that. But you mentioned your strategy to bounce up instead of bouncing back. Tell me how you landed on that. What does that mean?
So bouncing back to me means going back to wherever
Hang on a
I
second. You
was.
know what?
What?
Hang on. Hold on one second. Because what happened is I muted you on the computer, which means I muted you into this too. So I can't have the Facebook up. It's not going to work for me. So I'm going to stop playing. Hang on. There we go. Haha. Okay, I'm learning. Here we go. I'm going to bring the volume back up again without playing the video on Facebook. Okay, so
Okay.
Facebook, you're just over there. Do you do your thing? I'm with you. 100%.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So bounce back to me is bouncing back to where I was before I had the diagnosis. And if I would go back there, that means I'm in the same place. So when I looked at it, I was spending a lot of time, I was in stress related mode because I did not have a lot of systems in place at that time for my business. I wasn't quite eating healthy. All right, I'll be upfront. I was not eating healthy. Running from one meeting to the next meeting and grabbing whatever I could on the road isn't a good plan.
You're
And I,
describing a lot of people's lifestyles before,
yes,
right? So a lot of people, because of the rush and the frenzy of the pace of life that most people are subscribing to.
absolutely. And also, I wasn't exercising on a consistent basis. So, looking at that, and that's where I brought in the acupuncture and so forth, looking at how can I make my lifestyle better so that I can move through this as best can and get beyond where I was before. So as I kept thinking about that, then I was at Influence 2017.
Mhm.
So the speakers premier conference. So when I was at Influence, I was there with my business coach, and she said to me, MJ, I don't know what word to use for you. It isn't bounce back. It's because you do better than bounce back. And it was after that, I thought, it's bounce up.
Mm.
Thinking about because basketball is one of my favorite sports, I was thinking about, oh my goodness, like the guys, they rebound, they grab that basketball. When they get that basketball, they're able to go ahead and take another shot and make a goal. And I thought, okay, bounce up. That fits so much better because
Yeah.
each time I go through some type of adversity, a crisis, and I went through one in 2010, I bounced up. I ended up in a better place than I ever was before. So that's how Bounce Up came about. And Bounce Up allows us to be more proactive. It allows us to think about momentum and what can we do differently and how can we make it better this time than where we were before.
Well, I love it. And I love the enthusiasm in your voice when you're talking about it. Does this, because you've seen the success and you've held on to this attitude and proven it 3 times over now, does that make you much less fearful now then of what's going to happen now? Can you count on yourself to bounce up again?
Definitely. And it also has trained me to be present more so than I was before, and also not to look in the rearview mirror. What I do is I evaluate the actions I did before. However, I don't go back and dwell on what I did. It's like,
Mm.
use it as a lesson. What did I do before? How can I do better this next time? And what's crazy is I always did that in my sales conversations. I mean, I always did that. Okay, this is what you said in this conversation. How can you do better next time? What do you need to change? And then I pulled it whenever I was going through adversity, I pulled it into my lifestyle now.
Mhm.
So that has helped. The other thing is I do have a strong faith, so that does come into play. And I know through faith and also through the strategies I've implemented that I can get through this. And also to support my power team. I have a very strong power team in place with a mixture of colleagues and family and friends.
Mm.
And I know that I can get through whatever it is with those 3 strategies in place.
I love it. Can you talk a little bit more about this power team? Because the health aspect is one thing, but what else do you look for from the people that are on your power team?
So I do have 2 different types of power teams, the
Okay.
personal one and then also the professional one. And some
Okay.
of my colleagues are in both. So
Mm.
this is interesting because I just taught this in my class, the class when I talk about opportunity, one of the opportunities I found was to create an online class as we were going through this Stay Safe at Home.
Mhm.
And I had just finished the first of the 4-week class. And I taught the group, well, we shared, it was interactive, how to create a power team. So the first step is
Mm.
to figure out who is toxic. Who keeps you back?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you know what I mean because you
Yeah.
talk about productivity. So, who holds you back?
Yeah.
Who do you need to either limit your time with or actually take out of your life because they're not good for you?
Well, haven't you seen more of that now than any period beforehand? And what I'm noticing through Facebook primarily is that a lot of people are so much more clear about having the people surround them whose values align. And if the values don't align, they're like, I blocked you. I'm not, I've shushed you. It's not, there's a distance thing to preserve comfort in our own, I suppose. I hope it's not sort of being narrow-minded, but it's keeping that toxicity at bay.
Definitely, definitely. And we will find more people implementing better strategies and
Mm.
letting go of any toxic situations and people as
Mhm.
we move forward. So we
Mhm.
will definitely notice that. So that's one of the first things that I suggest is to figure out who it is. And the next part of it is, and here comes one of my momentum questions, is what destiny do you want to hit? What is the goal? Where do you want to go? What is that target?
Where are you aiming?
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Without an aim, without a target, you can't aim.
Right.
So figure that out. When you figure that out, that's when you can add in your power team. So the first one is, who can you have as a mentor? Because mentors are fabulous. They're not meant to be coaches, but they're meant to be there to mentor you. So who can you have as a mentor?
They're actively going to guide you. So
Yes.
that's a piece of experience where you're looking for their prior experience and to tell you and to give their wisdom to you.
Absolutely. And in my book, I interview 8 different people. And one of the business owners, his name's Phil Cohen. He calls them mountain guides. They are the people that have been on the journey before you. They have the scars. They know exactly what you're going. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who is that person? Next is to think about who is somebody who can help you logically think through your plan. So you need someone who is a logical person.
A head partner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then the third one is, who is your kick your butt person? Who is that person who's going to say, okay, MJ, enough. Now get your butt in action. So who is that person?
Is it going to call you on your baloney, right?
They will. They will. And then the next one is, we all need someone who is going to allow us to vent. Now, this comes with roles. So you're allowed to vent. You're allowed to vent 1 time or 2 times. However, you're not allowed to stay there. That's why you have the other people on your power team, because we all need to release that. And when I was diagnosed the second time, I could not stuff down that emotion. We have to get it out. But that also is in business. How many times has a roadblock happened in business? How many times did someone lose a sale? Or you're like, right now, business owners are going through so much because if their business has been shut down for 8 weeks, they're bordering on, this isn't a good place to be. So they need someone who they can vent to, just to get those emotions out. And then that's why they need the logical and also the kick your butt so that they can move forward.
Well, yeah, because you've got to process some of that emotion for the amygdala to calm down so the cognitive brain can come back into that place. And if you suppress it, then it's going into the body, and then bad things show up later, right? So,
definitely. And then the last one is, who can you mastermind with? Who can be a mastermind or an accountability?
Yeah.
So, and you can have both of those. But I use that as a basis, going back to the great quote where, we are the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. Yeah. So if we strategically plan a power team with those people, then we're surrounding ourselves with people that will help you get there. You're surrounding with your people, as I call, play up. You do need a play up person. So in basketball, I had mentioned I love basketball. My son played through high school and college. So I always found a way, as a single mom, I always found a way for him to play against players who were better than him. So for him to play up. We need that in business too. Yeah. We need people to play up who can help us be better at what we are doing.
100%. I love it. And it's interesting because I've heard different people talk about this support group before, but I love the nuance, because depending on where you are, you need a different person on your team and someone who's got those specific skills. And it's a bit narrow-minded to think you can find all of that in one person. And we sometimes put a lot of expectation on our partners, our romantic partner, to be that, and it not necessarily always there either. So different people support us in different ways.
Absolutely. And then if we expect our partner, a romantic partner, to be that, and they're not, well, first, kind of puts a wedge in the relationship. Second, we've now put our expectations on them, and that isn't fair to them. And it doesn't make for a great relationship or business for you if you're relying on your partner to be that business person. And you're right, can't be all five.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, especially when you're in a partnership, and I've been in a few business partnerships, to recognize what your strengths are as a team and then where the gaps are too, so that you might need to fortify from outside, even on a regular basis for that team. So I like this, the way you're thinking about what do you need. I wonder if you have anything around I suppose maybe the vent person is, you mentioned the logical thinking person. The vent person might be that heart feeling person to deal with the emotion piece.
It is. It is. So, and I have to say that person is also, she's the emotional piece. She's also the kick my butt person, kind of have two in one with her.
Well, it's kind of nice to have a kick your butt person with heart, because then it might be a little softer, right?
Definitely, definitely. And then I have the logical person, Bev. She's a colleague / friend, and she is much more analytical, much more logical than I am. I tend to go to the idea creation, where I can start creating ideas, and she'll say, MJ, wait a second, you just came up with 10 ideas. You're not going to be able to do all 10 of them. Where can you start? MJ, do you hear yourself?
Yeah, and celebrate the creativity, but let's get practical. Which one is going to be your first one to implement? I resonate. That resonates with me in such a way you have no idea. So yeah, I'm a big starter. So
awesome. All right, high five there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just looking. So there was one thing I know we talked about wanting to speak to here, was that connection between energy and workflow. When you mentioned personal and professional, and you also mentioned place. So I wonder if you can expand on that. I would love to dig into your thoughts around energy and workflow and how we connect those two things.
I would love to. For me, the space needs to be very comforting, depending upon what the space is. I am definitely I can feel the environment around me. So for space, for productivity, because we're speaking somewhat about productivity here. Think about the space. One, you do need light. Light actually makes us feel better. It brings more energy to us. So bright light, whether you can get natural light or you need to bring in extra lighting with lamps and so forth. But we need that. That helps.
In the daytime.
In the daytime.
Especially the morning, but in the daytime, yes, absolutely.
The second part is to the organization. Productivity, this speaks to you. The even little small chunks of what you can do in the way of organization. I have a document easel that I have on my desk, because that allows me then to keep posture better than me looking down all the time at a document, then just throws my body posture off.
Ergonomics are huge. I noticed you have a cushion behind you, for example, that's giving you some more lumbar support. So yeah, ergonomics, you're right. This is totally the wheelhouse I play in. And I love that you're highlighting these points, because we can't dismiss them. We can't ignore the space. And especially now, as we're asking much more of the spaces we're living in to serve as functional study and work environments. And I don't know if how about in your day? Do you vary your posture depending on task? And what does that look like in your day?
I do. I definitely do. So I work, and here goes to professional flow. I work for 50 minutes at a time, and then I break. And then at the top of the hour, then I'll start again. So that break, I get up, I get coffee or tea or water, just to get myself out of that position. However, I don't work 50 minutes straight on my laptop. I will get up, I'll grab some files just to break up that 50 minutes of sitting. So I make sure that, and usually what I do is 15 to 20 minutes in one position before I switch.
And is your body telling you that, or do you have a reminder that pulls you out of what you're doing to cue you to switch?
My body tells me that, like I can feel, because we lose focus. So my body tells me when I'm losing focus so that I know that I need to do something. I do use Alexa, which I turned off. I use Alexa to tell me at 50 minutes, and Alexa will tell me.
Oh,
So, and I have her play Irish music. So for me, it's very lively. I don't know the words, so it doesn't take me off I'm not trying to sing along with it, but that will cue me. And I use Alexa. I use Alexa for a number of things. So that's what I do work-wise. I do make sure that at lunchtime, either lunchtime or at 3 o'clock is when I do some type of exercise. If I am somewhat in a stuck mode where I need some brain energy or some brain thought, I will take my walk because, you know, in nature, it just energizes us and we get that focus back again.
Yeah. And with your arms swinging freely, apparently even more so. So, yeah.
Oh, and you're doing the breaststroke. So you're
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There. So that helps me with my schedule. So I also at 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock is a downtime for me. So I know that I need to adjust whatever I'm doing according to that. So
for most people, it's the circadian rhythm dip. And if you need a nap, I say take it. If not, then going for a walk is a perfect perk up. But what do you do?
So I will do one of two things. So if I didn't have my walk at lunchtime, I will have it at 3. If not, I have an exercise ball and I will sit on that and I will bounce because that's really good for draining our lymph nodes too. I learned that from a wellness coach. So I will bounce on the ball and then I'll do some stretching exercises.
Amazing. That's really fascinating. It's interesting. I was a member of the Canadian Association of Ergonomists for a while, and I remember one of the magazines was talking about, one of the articles was talking about, should I be sitting on an exercise ball all the time? And it's too onerous on the body. You won't be able to maintain that posture, but to use it the way you did and come back to it and integrate it in your day, fabulous. I love that.
And it feels so great to sit on that and then stretch forward and then just let your arms drop because it stretches out all parts of your body, your core, your arms, your shoulders. So I will use that. The other thing too, whenever we're coming to workflow, think about your personal energy to help with your professional task. Now, when I am when I'm not going through any type of adversity, my natural workflow is first thing in the morning. So depending upon what time I wake up, from 7 to 9, I use that to work on my business or work on content because that's when I have my highest workflow. And then I will work in other tasks accordingly. Now in afternoon, as I had mentioned, somewhere around 3, after 3, that's when I will do more phone calls because that fits more with my natural flow. So I like to think, so an analogy is think about going swimming since you like swimming. So or you want to just jump in a pool, get wet, get it all over with, or do you dip your toe in?
Depends on how cold the water is. It totally depends. Yeah.
So I like to jump in. So especially if it is cold, I want to just jump straight in. So that's the way that I like to tackle my task. I'd like to get the hard things done immediately so that later in the day, it's easier for me to complete the other ones. You know, they're easy to complete, so we'll get a lot checked off.
Well, and the task that you're describing when you're engaging in phone calls, there's an energy coming back from the other person. So you're not carrying the whole load of that activity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. I didn't think of it that way. Thank you. So now I know why I do that.
Well, it feels good. It feels good. So you're not relying on your own mental power at that time to stay focused and stay driving forward and completing that task. So you're right. Recognizing when you're at your best, whether you're a morning person, night owl, and we are different. So what I hope is happening, I know all the parents out there are finding out that their teenagers would really love to sleep a whole lot longer than they're ever able to under normal circumstances. Breakfast is now at 1 or 2 o'clock in several households that I know. But it's what I'm hoping that's coming out of this for people, and the opportunity for you is to really tap into what do you prefer? What's your preferred experience? And then I hope as we move through this and we evolve to have greater respect for humanity in the way we work, I'm hoping that companies will invite us to work in time frames that suit us more. When we need to come together and collaborate, let's figure out how to do that, and we have to unify our schedules there. But as much as possible, give people the autonomy, especially when we're doing cognitively demanding tasks, and we have the flexibility to have some autonomy, control over our environments, to give us that. That's my great wish for this period of time.
That would be fabulous. And think about it, as we're going through this today, it is definitely a disruption. So your normal energy flow might be off as we're going through this compared to it is whenever you're in a regular workspace.
You're bang on, actually, and I'm hoping I'll be able to get the results of this study. But I think it's Till Roenberg. He's one of the circadian rhythm researchers in the world, and he just did a study, and he was really looking to find out what's happening in our shift. And I think my clock has shifted. My whole day shifted almost half an hour to an hour later. I don't know why, but just following different, just being able to set up the day exactly how I want. I've shifted to be about half an hour later. So it will be interesting to see what emerges in his research and looking at that.
Definitely, because whenever I was going through that journey, I found my workflow, my strongest was 2 hours later. My body needed that shift to get energy so that I could work the way I did before. So there was a shift for me. So, and as you're saying, so yours is about an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the whole beauty in this is that it's a time of self-discovery, and hopefully, and I know all the realities are so different out there. There's a lot of people I know who are suffering overwork right now. They're in cultures that are there, and this will always be the case when you've got a diverse workforce. Some people who don't have other commitments or don't wish to have other commitments, and so they're not setting boundaries, and the day keeps extending now because there's no physical boundary or transitional ritual between the work day, that professional experience, and your personal life. So we have to create them. And as leaders, we have to look at that, what's happening for our team, and support the creation and defense of that time, and make sure we're not getting into a dangerous overwork and pressured environment again.
Absolutely. And there has to be some type of transition at the end of the day. There has to be, whether it's booting down the laptop, whether it's walking out the door. One of the things that I pulled this off of another wellness coach that I know. She says, take bubbles. Like, bubbles allows you to slow down your breath and to breathe out. So grab your kids, make that transition, go outside, blow some bubbles, but find some way, sit on the exercise ball, find a way to transition out of work.
Yeah.
And then don't answer the phone. I know that's hard to do, or don't answer email. Believe me, I'm one who tends to answer, but I've been shutting down myself too.
Yeah, and it requires a different kind of discipline, but being intentional about it, and recognizing that you might need some kind of ritual around the close of the day to then give you that gap, and also figure out what that interval looks like. Is there something you need for yourself, so then you can be in the right frame of mind? I do a lot of work with accountants, and I know after busy season, I always encourage, before finishing grueling hours of work over many months, and then immediately shifting to give to the family, I'm like, what do you need for yourself to restabilize, catch your breath, so that you can then be in a place of giving again? Do you need something for yourself? So it's the same on a micro level every day. What does that look like? So you can transition well into that giving place for your personal life and your family.
Absolutely. And we can't give unless our tank is full.
Exactly.
We need that energy to be able to give.
Yeah, I have loved this discussion so much. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And that's around, we talked about anchors and success anchors. I'm wondering if you can just share what that concept means, and maybe what your most profound or powerful anchor is for you that helps you stay on track.
I do have a morning one where some people call it meditation. For me, it is having that peace and harmony in one before I start my day. Business anchor is I start my day the night before. So I sit down and figure out what is it I need to accomplish the next day. And I write it down on a small notepad that stays by my desk. So I've already figured out what I need to do the next day that night. And then I also have it according to priorities. So I list the top 3, I number them. So those are the things that I need to accomplish that day. Now I don't have to think. My day is set up.
Yeah, it frees the mind. Yeah.
It does. And then too, when we sleep, all those things sort of make its way to figure out how you're going to do it. So as we're sleeping.
Yeah, my friend Nathalie Plamondon-Thomas, she talks about engaging your inner assistant kind of thing. She's like, give it to your assistant to do while you're sleeping. Give them a task to figure out for you.
Oh, I love that inner assistant. Okay, I've not called it that before, but I love that. But that is one of my anchors. I know exactly what I'm going to do. So along with that, I also know what I'm doing. Sunday night is another time for anchor. So I sit down and figure out what do I need to accomplish that week to reach my month anchor. So at the beginning of every month, the way that I create that anchor is I give each month a name. So what is going to be for that month? So when all this happened, I changed my word to creative. So my word would be creative because the word that wouldn't work. So because it was revenue. So it was like, okay, let's switch. Yes, as I had, a dozen events cancel. So I switched it to creative. So what do I need to do to be creative? What tasks need done? What projects? So when I think of it for the month, it gives me an idea of what projects I will work on that month and then break it down according to when I have free time during the week. So I schedule those times around when I have other commitments, whether it's virtual meetings or virtual training.
Awesome. So every month has a theme, if you will, for what's when your focus and your intention to that month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's Mike Vardy's another productivity expert, productivityist is his handle. And he talks about theming even each day in the week. So yeah, I haven't gone that far, but I have a word for each year, but I like this idea of a month because sometimes projects take an extended period of time and it brings your mind to that very easily with a one-word trigger. So yeah, the power of a theme or setting intention is really powerful. My gosh, MJ, you've shared so much. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And this is a personal one. It's M with a little J.
Yes.
Help me understand M little J because I've never seen that before. It was unique and I'm curious.
Okay. It's that creative part.
Yeah.
Just something different instead of being, capital M, capital J. For me, it looked more fluid. Like the capital M and J reminds me of screaming at someone, even though I know that is, correct English or grammar to do it that way. The MJ just seemed it had fluid, like a fluid movement to it. So it had more of that artistic bent to it.
I love it. Well, I could tell it was intentional, and I was really curious because it's also very standout. You don't see that. So yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
It is interesting. Sometimes people will, is this Madge? What does it mean? I'm like, no, it's MJ.
I love it. It stood out for me, and I thought this woman is interesting. I really want to understand the way you think, and I want to thank you. This has been MJ Callaway. She's a sales trainer, talks a lot about resilience, has written a book called Bounce Up. I want to get the whole title right. Bounce Up, Outpower Adversity, Boost Resilience, and Rebound Higher. So you definitely want to look for that. And if you want to find out and reach out to MJ, you can find her at mjcallaway.com. And you can put whatever J in there you want, that'll work, but mjcallaway.com. And you can find more about MJ, her story, and ways that you can work with her as well. So MJ, I want to thank you very much. I've learned, obviously, from a very accomplished business person, speaker, sales professional, some great strategies, and I'm very happy to have you share those with the audience out there today. I invite viewers to join in again. This is, you probably could be watching this on Facebook now or on YouTube. This is the Work from Home Better interview series, and I'm Clare Kumar, Productivity Catalyst from Toronto. It's been wonderful to have you with me. Thanks again, MJ Callaway, for joining me, and I hope you will tune in again soon. Have an awesome day, everyone.
Thank you, Claire.